Okay, we'll come to order. Thanks for all coming on. Thanks for everybody's patience for hanging around till 10 o'clock start, 10:20 start. At this point, I think we have a quorum. Interest of time, we'll step through the introductions quickly and expeditiously.
Norm Steen, Teller County.
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Bill Murray, City of Colorado Springs.
Sally Clark, El Paso County Commissioner.
Sharon Thompson, City of Fountain.
Turner Smith, Town of Rama.
Eric Dormany, representing Colonel Chess, 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base.
David Ward, Manatee Springs.
Rod Chisholm, Fort Carson. Ben Hall, Public Transportation.
Ken Olson, representing Colonel Troy Dunn, United States Air Force Academy.
Robin Slade, representing Colonel Deanna Burt, 50th Space Wing at Schriever.
Mark Waller, County Commissioner.
Neil Levy, Woodland Park Mayor.
Rob McDonald, PPACG, and quick new staff introductions? Or are you going to do that later?
How about later?
Later.
Dennis Heisey, El Paso County.
Andy Pico, Colorado Springs. And we'll
Catch up.
how about
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Such. We have public comments at this time. Have any comments from the public on something not on the agenda? Yes, come on up, Deborah.
Deborah Stone-Weininger, Community Advocate, Citizen Scientist. I'm back today to bring up the issue of Big Johnson Reservoir. It has been largely ignored. It is one of the non-potable water sources that was used to repurpose water for our alluvial wells in the Whitefield alluvial well area. That and groundwater and rainwater were the two primary sources of water out there. My concern is they're draining it, supposedly draining part of it. This is according to our utilities company at a citizens class I went to a couple weeks ago. They're draining it, and they're going to use that as part of the water for testing filters on two of our wells next to Fountain Creek that have not been used in quite some time. And then they're going, this is the part that truly concerned me, is that when it gets drained and dried, that they're going to take the silt from that, and Fountain Valley School has agreed to take this silt. Now, my concern is that this has been a big source of the accumulation of the PFOAs and chromium-6, which is not in firefighting foam. Chromium-6, the combination of chromium-6 and PFOAs are in fracking fluid. Now, the amount that's in there is disturbing. The amount that is in vegetables that have been watered by that water source from the alluvial wells is at 2.1 parts per million. So those are vegetables that never went to market by any of the people growing them, but they did their own tests on them, and they came back from that. That's very disturbing, that we're going to take this soil that will have the same contaminants in addition to other things that are in there and put it on school grounds to dry out and blow around, because if PFOAs are inhaled, if chromium-6 is inhaled, it also can cause lung cancer, in addition to the things that it can do to you as a carcinogen if you drink it. That means it accumulates in your lungs and in your throat. And we're going to put this soil on school grounds, at the top of a hill, in the middle of a high-density urban community out there. People are not listening to me, so I'm bringing it up every place I can. We've got the vegetables that have been watered with this repurposed water, and it's showing the PFOAs. They haven't tested it for the chromium-6 yet. The people who tested for the PFOAs on their own, outside of El Paso County, are testing it now for the chromium-6 as well, because we know we've got both. and we know it needs to be addressed, but we can't just turn the other way and go, oh, their problem. No, because that dust, if it blows around, it'll get everywhere. It'll get a whole lot more than just 1 or 2 blocks away. And it can get into Fountain Creek, and then it can be as in this dried up dust form, and then have a whole new cycle of pollution that needs to be looked at, that needs to be addressed. I'm not just concerned about drinking the Johnson Reservoir. That article came out, Commissioner Heisey thought for some reason that I was only concerned with it being drained. It goes far beyond that. There's a whole new health hazard that needs to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Okay. Rob, I think that falls within the general realm of air and water quality, so could we have someone take a look into it and
Yeah,
report
we'll
back
take,
to us?
I saw Pete's here somewhere. There he is. We'll take a look. Or
Just- Okay,
let's take a look, or
yeah,
and
just
then
take a
report
look
back.
and report back.
Yep, we will.
Okay, consent items, items be acted upon as a whole unless they're called up for discussion. Anybody have anything they want to pull from consent?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Action items, item 6A, wastewater treatment facility improvements.
Pete's come up. We do so few of these, I thought I'd put them higher on the agenda.
Thank you. I'm Peter Gillespie, PPACG Environmental Program Manager. This project is for essentially a replacement and a substantial upgrade of the wastewater treatment works that served YMCA, Camp Maria, and Park County. The system that they have had for many years was designed, intended to be an evaporation system. It really turned out to be an infiltration system. And because of the limited pre-treatment of the water going into that small excavated area, small lagoon, the wastewater did not meet specs sufficient. It didn't meet state specs that are required to infiltrate groundwater. And this site is also close to the South Platte River, so it's of concern. Anyway, the YMCA has been under they've been notification by CDPHE for some time that they need to address this. So they're stepping up to the plate, and they're proposing to install a rather high-tech system, what's referred to as a sequential batch wastewater treatment system. What's referred to as a sequential batch treatment system. So basically, the water comes in, it goes to a chamber, it's treated in that zone, how it's supposed to be treated, then it moves to the next zone, then to the next zone, then it's chlorinated, it goes into the basin, which is in fact now designed to be an infiltration basin. And the water will be treated to specs, to state CDPHE specs, suitable for groundwater disposal. The project went through 3 steps. It went through this preliminary advisory committee, the SARC, the Site Application Advisory Committee, which is under the Water Quality Management Committee. So 2 sets of technical heads looked at it, the SARC, the WQMC, and we all conferred on the same kinds of things, pointed out to the engineer some concerns we had, and the engineer who was here, Nathan Martinson from FEI, if you have any particular technical questions, I'll bring him up. I refer you to him. But they were responsive and prompt in their answers to our satisfaction. We collectively, the SARC and the WQMC, the WQMC recommended that this project move forward to the CAC, Citizens Advisory Group. We had discussions. They did their homework very well and read our recommendations. They had some questions of their own, which were addressed to their satisfaction. They recommended that the project be further to the board. So collectively, the technical groups and the citizen group have met, conferred on the project, shared their collective wisdom, and all have recommended that the project be presented for the board. And with staff, we recommend this for approval and then going up the line ultimately to CDPHE. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? With that, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
The PPACG budget.
Her first budget. She's racing up.
So I'm ready. Casey Partridge, PPACG Finance Manager. I'm here today to request review and approval of the 2017 budget and work program. We had brought this to the board last month, which was October. There was a number of questions, and there has been one revision since it was presented last time. We had originally budgeted a 20% increase in our health insurance program. We've met with our carrier, and that has dropped. So our total increase is now 10.21 for all benefits and budgeting for all positions within the new wage ranges. Also, again, we have not changed from 38 to 38.15, which we presented last month. Member dues are staying at $458,000, which we originally presented in September. We've included $30,000 for the strategic plan for PPACG, as well as $10,000 for the impact group, which was presented at the last month. And with the change in health insurance and the decrease, we have increased our capital expenditure line items of $31,267. That's for additional work that needs to be done on the building, and the parking lot needs to have some upgrades done. And so we've set aside that savings in health insurance for those projects. So the PPACG staff is recommending the Board of Directors approve the 2017 budget and work program, including the revised language that you'll see in front of you. For the work program, we changed some language on page 9, spelling out a little bit more what the Ombudsman Service Program does. So we're asking for that change in the work program. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Comments? Trustee Smith?
What line is the contract for the outlook that we're going to do?
The strategic planning?
Yes.
That's in contract services,
Okay.
which actually has dropped since last year because of some of the changes in the AAA program.
So if you did a breakout on that, what did you budget for that
$30,000 for the strategic plan.
for next year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I have to say, I was very impressed to see the health costs stay where they are. So that was awe-inspiring.
Yes.
How did you manage that?
We appreciate that.
We challenged our health insurance vendor with actually Barb. I don't know if she's still in the room, but Barb, Casey, and I leaned on them a little.
That's impressive. Yeah, anyway, any other comments, questions of the board? Entertain a motion.
Just a comment, Casey. We spent 45 minutes discussing this in detail on Friday during work session. And
Yes.
I just appreciate all the background and research and detail that you put into it. So
Thank you.
thanks for doing it right.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Sorry I couldn't be here Friday, I was ill, but thank you for answering my question today.
Okay. At this time, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 2017 budget for PPACG.
Second.
Any last comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you. Item 6C, the TIP Policy 1.
Good morning, everyone. Kevin Reyes, Transportation Planner here at PPACG. So we're getting ready to start our 2019-2024 Transportation Improvement Program. And as part of that process, we want to start establishing some policies early on just to kind of keep everything structured and to ensure that projects selected for funding best meet our regional needs. And so over the past two TAC and CAC meetings, I presented two potential TIP policies to both committees that we've been coming up with, and they both both committees approved these policies, or recommended approval of these policies to the board. And so I think we're probably ready for a motion from the board today as well. If you look in your agenda, I have each policy listed separately so we can get separate motions on each one. So I'll go ahead and start with tip policy number 1, which says that projects submitted to the 2019-2024 Transportation Improvement Program must come from the fiscally constrained list of projects in the 2040 Long-Range Transportation Plan. Now, in your memo, I listed some of the pros and cons of having a policy, having this policy, and I'll quickly go over some of the main pros that I think are important to highlight. The first pro of having this policy would be that it ensures that PPACG is conforming to the new performance-based measures, which are now a requirement in the FAST Act. The FAST Act is the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act. It was passed by Congress last December. And they now have a rule on there that says in our long-range plan we have to have performance measures, and the TIP has to make progress towards those performance measures. So having this policy would make sure that we're achieving those performance measures. Attachment number 1 of your memo has the details of that specific policy. The words that are in bold are my own paraphrasing, and then underneath that is the direct quote from Federal Highway Administration's language. And so another pro to highlight about having this policy is that it would save time for both PPACG and for our project sponsors. It would save us time because it means that we would only be scoring projects during one cycle. And it would save our project sponsors time because it means that they will only be submitting projects to us and filling out project applications during one cycle as well, instead of doing it again if we receive additional projects. Another pro to highlight is that having this policy will provide transparency with the public because it shows consistency between the TIP and the long-range transportation plan. And lastly, a pro to highlight is that having this policy ensures that the projects that are in the TIP have been vetted through our long-range transportation process. So there are some cons that I think are important to highlight as well. We did receive some concern from a couple of our TAC members that having this policy would limit the flexibility of this funding, and we had a lot of discussion on that and got a lot of good feedback. And I addressed this concern by talking about the lack of flexibility of having this policy is more of a perceived lack of flexibility. And the reason that it's more perceived is because the board can always amend the long-range transportation plan at any time, and once that is amended, then we can amend the TIP. And then PPACG is also proposing to hold a formal call for amendments every January and every start of the TIP cycle, which means that we would have three formal opportunities to amend the long-range transportation plan every call for projects, which is every 2 years. And the other concern regarding lack of flexibility is for emergencies. And I addressed this by talking about how this funding is inherently not designed for emergencies. I gave the example of if a major corridor were to be washed out in the Pikes Peak area tomorrow, we would want to start fixing that as soon as possible within the coming days or the coming weeks. And if we were going to try to pay for that with TIP money, we would have to wait 2 years until the next call for projects, and then that project would not get funding until at least 2020, because when we do call for projects, we don't call the new ones until the 5th and 6th year of the TIP. So it would take essentially 4 years to get a project funded if we were going to use it from TIP money. And so that's everything that we discussed with the committees on this policy. Again, we ended up having both of them recommend this for approval, and with that, I'll open up for any questions and ask the board for a motion.
Any questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Turner. Smith, I'm sorry.
In the event of an emergency, doesn't CDOT have funds on hand if something washed out of part of I-25? Do they have funds available?
There are other funding sources for emergencies like that. FEMA would be one of those. I'm not sure. Does CDOT have additional funds on?
Yeah, CDOT has a Transportation Commission contingency for extra snow and ice, extra emergencies. But again, something like the floods of a few years ago, that was $500 million. They don't have that laying around. But there's some limited, so if a sinkhole opens up, they can take care of it, a rock slide, they can take care of some of that. But again, part of what we do, you have state roads, the local government roads, so if something happened in the city or county or town, CDOT may not have emergency money for you, and as Kevin says, the TIP process is a little slow to get emergency money out there, but cities, counties, towns may or may not have access to some money. Again, depends what it is. But TIP's pretty slow to get money in. We certainly can put money in if it's available. During the floods in Highway 24 West, CDOT made available funds. We put it in our TIP as soon. I think we may have had a special meeting too of the board to say, here's $5 or $7 million, put it in the TIP, and off we went.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Jennifer Irvin. I'm here on behalf of the TAC, as the TAC chair, but I'm also the county engineer, as you know. So I just wanted to provide you some additional information that was not included in your packet that was discussed at the TAC. First of all, I just want to address the ER funding, because a few months ago, some of the TAC members had addressed that issue, and that adding additional emergency funding for some of those projects has, as approved by the board, is administratively able to be added to the TIP. So, and then come back as far as that. So from that perspective, I think that we are covered in regards to this. But I just wanted to mention a couple things that were discussed that were not included in your packet. There was a lot of discussion on this item at the TAC, and some of the things that were discussed were not included in your packet. So one of the things that was discussed is part of the reason the TAC understood that this was being brought forward was because many of the projects that were actually submitted in the last call for projects were not included in the long-range transportation plan. And so that was some concern, I think, of everybody involved, but I think that that's a large reason for some of the, at least that's what we were told by staff, a large reason why this policy was coming forward. And I think that the concern from some of the TAC members is just that, do we really need this policy? Is this really a necessary policy? And while it's important that those projects that are submitted for the TIP be included in the long-range plan, we've had many examples of good projects that were submitted that were ultimately gone back and approved by the board, and then subsequently amended the long-range transportation plan to include those. So I think there's a concern on some of the TAC members that we lose some of our flexibility with this. And then there was some discussion if some of those projects, if the local governments are not including a lot of those, or not submitting the projects in the long-range transportation plan, there was a concern that then does our long-range transportation plan, the fiscally constrained plan, really reflect the priorities of the region? So that is definitely a concern. Another concern that was discussed is a lot of our projects in the long-range transportation plan, just because it is fiscally constrained and we have a lot of cleared environmental corridors, a lot of those dollars are taken up by CDOT projects, which is a good thing. But what that does is that leaves less money available for the local governments to include projects in fiscally constrained long-range transportation plan. So I think that there was some concern that this completely removes some of the flexibility. I do appreciate, I think at the end of our meeting, staff did discuss some of the things that they included in your packet, which was amending the long-range transportation plan. But one of the things that's included in this packet is that, you know, that can be done on a monthly basis. The long-range transportation plan, because it does have to be advertised for public comment, takes longer than a month. So that, yes, exactly. So it's not as easy as one might think. And so the other thing I just want to mention, too, from the TAC, some of the TAC members' perspective is that when we apply for projects, in the past, the scoring of those projects have taken into account whether those projects were in the long-range transportation plan. So, for example, projects that member entities governments submit, they scored higher if they were actually in the long-range transportation plan versus other projects that were submitted. They scored lower if they were not included in the long-range transportation plan. And I think that that was done with the basic understanding is that, you know, those projects that are actually in the plan today are more important because, you know, they did go through some of that vetting process. I just want to mention that the TAC did recommend approval of this, 4-2 with 1 abstention. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Trustee Smith?
In not very good parlance, would this keep Dr. Cog from jumping the line?
I'm going to say no, because this is ours as to what we're putting in the plan. So it wouldn't have anything to do with Dr. Cog.
If they adopted a similar project, a similar policy, then yes, it would. By jumping in line, you mean injecting, use the term knee-jerk projects, rather than having staffed and scored and evaluated and compared with other projects. So it doesn't, I mean, just, we spent a lot of time with this again on our work session Friday. It makes it more deliberate. It doesn't remove flexibility, just make it much more deliberate, more public, because now you have to wait for public comment on the change addition to the long-range plan before you move it to the TIP.
I would just add, you know, when we submit projects, those actually go through that process as well. So it actually kind of goes through it. So in some, there's some discussion of it's kind of backwards because you submit it and then you go back and change it. But I would say that there are several projects that we have done in this region, very high priority and very high profile projects that we've been able to apply for and get done because of that. So I just want to make sure the board has a good understanding of some of those other concerns that were brought forth at the TAC. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, motion and approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much. I think
Thank
you're
you.
up for the next one.
I got one more, yeah. So the second policy that we that I brought to the TAC and the CAC over the past several months was the second memo that you have, which says providing a pot of money for small projects. And we got a lot of positive feedback on this policy from both committees, and they both recommended it for approval as well. And the reason that we are proposing this policy is because a lot of these smaller projects in our region struggle to compete with the larger projects when it comes to scoring. And so the idea of this policy is to give those projects a better chance at scoring, so they'll just be scored against each other rather than against a larger project. And so what we're proposing is defining a small project as capping it at 5% of STP Metro in any given fiscal year. And so it can be less than that, but it cannot be any more than that. So if a project is only 2% of STP Metro, then that means another project could also get funded as well until you reach that 5% cap. And so if you were to look at your chart in your memo, I threw together kind of a quick comparison chart of what 5% really looks like. And it kind of gives you the high and low end of what that would be. So the high end of having 5% set aside in STP Metro, in 2020 you would have $400,000 federal money with a $69,000 local match. And then the low end would be in 2017 you have $383,000 federal money set aside with a $66,000 local match. So it's a more or less $20,000 difference between those 2 years. We think that going the percentage route is a good idea because you can, as you can see, you can adjust for different years of funding that you receive based on inflation and other factors as well. And so I think, yeah, and I guess the way we came to this number was CDOT actually had a pot for small projects in their Safe Routes to School program, and their kind of ballpark was a project was defined as a small project between $50,000 and $350,000. So ours is a little bit higher. Both the TAC and the CAC recommended that we go a little bit higher on that. So that's kind of how we came up with this ballpark. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions, comments? Yes, Councilwoman Thompson.
Can you give me an example of what would be considered a small project?
Yeah, you want to?
Just in very couple sentences, it's not going to be, what is it, could it be used for?
So it could be, building sidewalk or building a trail, things like that. I actually looked through the fiscally constrained list in our 2040 plan and just that projects that were below $450,000, and I saw that there was about 29 of them. And so, for example, one of the project was construct 1,700 feet of sidewalk on Beacon Light Road. That was a $40,000 project. So that would be one example.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We could use a few sidewalks.
And just to be clear, if we vote no with this policy, it wouldn't mean the sidewalk could not be funded. We just have to compete with all the other projects would be scored much higher. That's the point here is that smaller projects are generally going to score lower. You're just giving an extra consideration to smaller projects, and once the 5% is reached, then you could still apply, rate against other projects.
They're already scored and rated.
Yes, yeah, you're just giving special consideration to move quickly, be able to move quickly on the smaller projects.
Yeah, sometimes have a greater impact.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of times. Yes, sir.
I should also add that if any of this money is not spent, if we don't reach that 5% cap, the money goes back into the general STP Metro Fund. So.
For Denver sidewalks.
for our sidewalk.
Oh. Trustee Smith.
I would move to approve.
Have a motion? Motion second. Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jennifer Irvin, TAC Chair. I just wanted to mention, TAC supported this one 4-2 with one abstention as well. Just wanted to mention some of the other projects that could be included are planning studies for roadways. One of the ones that the City of Colorado Springs has underway right now is Las Vegas Street. And then also for safety improvements. And I think that that's an important note to do, because those are projects that could be funded with relatively small funds, small amount of environmental clearances, and I think all the local agencies are very excited, so we appreciate staff working with us to bring the policy forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Yes.
Paul Sonia, Woodland Park City Council. On safety improvements, I would like to ask CDOT to meet with the city government of Woodland Park to review Highway 67 for safety improvements on the shoulders of 67 and also the deterioration of the highway surface. And I don't know if I'm in the right slot to talk about this, but that's what I'd like to bring to this table here right now, here in safety and highway issues being talked about.
So you got people in the room.
Yeah. Can we defer this discussion until we have the CDOT come up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just wanted to
Appreciate it.
thank you very much.
And welcome to the crowd. Item 6E, establish nominating committee for PPACG officers.
That's your and mine item. I'll start, and you can continue. Action today is in your packet. We've got all the candidates of you that are interested in serving as board officers for PPACG. In January at your annual meeting, you will select your officers. So you have the matrix on the first page of the current officers that are serving 1 year and those who are finishing up their second year. Board tradition has been 2 years serving in a position, then rotate around. But today's action is just naming the nominating committee. They will, as it's in your memo, talks about the process that the nominating committee goes through to provide candidates for positions, a slate of candidates, multiple slates, really dealer's choice for that nominating committee. So I've also listed those who have already volunteered to be selected on the nominating committee at the board chairman's option. So,
Well, I think this is for the board to approve this. I would nominate all of these 5, the officer selection. A great slate.
Motion to accept the nominating committee.
For a second? Second. Motion and second?
I'm on it, I didn't want to.
It's going to get awkward real fast
Yeah.
here.
I was going to say that.
Any further discussion? Anybody else want to add toss their names into the hat? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right.
Didn't even pick.
Okay, moving on to reports. CDOT monthly update. Do we have anyone from CDOT? There we go.
We do.
We do.
Dave Watts, CDOT Region 2, resident engineer. Just before we get to Woodland Park question, spend a few moments on the I-25 Cimarron update that we do here monthly. We do not have a newsletter handout. We have kind of, I'll say, flooded the zone within the media and the public places with some of the two of the milestones that we've recently completed on the I-25 Cimarron project. You may recall, not this past weekend, but 2 weekends before that, so back in the middle of October, we had a successful traffic switch to where we now have northbound, southbound I-25 traffic on the new I-25 overpass over Fountain Creek and US 24. That was a successful completion over that weekend. We had some closures that we were able to work through. With dropping one lane where we had 2 lanes open over the weekend in the middle of October. But that was a successful traffic switch that has freed up the northbound direction for future improvements, and particularly with this last weekend of work where we did have to close US 24 over the weekend. That was the bad news. The good news was we were a day ahead of schedule and were able to knock down the I-25 previously existing overpass. The original construction had been back in 1959. That bridge that we'd talked about for quite a while had served its useful life, and it was time to go. But that was a successful milestone that has us moving safely into Phase 2, which is going to be construction of the northbound I-25 improvements, completion of the US 24 structure over Fountain Creek along the highway on the west side of the interstate, and completion of the Cimarron Bridge as well. So more changes coming. We will soon see traffic yet this year, right around Christmas time, going on the Cimarron Bridge that was recently at the concrete deck poured, and you'll see further advancement of the I-25 overpass on the northbound direction there. I would ask for any questions on I-25 Cimarron. We remain on budget, on schedule for that project. Still anticipating completion by December 2017.
Okay. Any questions? My comment is very impressed by how well that switching worked. My compliments.
I wanted to thank Dave. I was there yesterday with a group of folks including our transportation commissioner. Wow. Live from PPACG, reporting live. I just wanted to compliment you, Dave, on the work that you've done and the communication piece. Lisa Bachman's done a great job with Bachman Public Relations to make sure that you're communicating. And it was an awesome getting that bridge down and doing it in such a short time period. I know that the people who travel that every day are really appreciative that it got done so quickly. And the whole project, because we've talked about this project a long time around this table, and getting the 8th Street improvements. And can you talk just briefly about the looking at the milestone of where we are today and when we expect completion?
December 2017?
December 2017. So it looks like the ultimate completion date. We're on track for that. You'll see some work coming up along Fountain Creek in between 8th Street and 24. Some yet to come added value, which is not apparent yet, will be this quadrant intersection, which is part of the guaranteed maximum price and an added value piece to the project that was within the original budget that we've identified through this group and through this board. and that will be coming in about June of 2017. I think that's going to be a pleasant surprise. It's going to help out some of the congestion problems that we experience at 8th and 24. And so that's an added benefit to the project. You'll start seeing further treatment of the panels and painting of the structures, and that aesthetic value of goal number 4 will start coming apparent. But meanwhile, we're still going to maintain our commitment to completing the project on time, minimizing inconvenience to the public as best we can, and maximizing the safety and mobility improvements in the interchange area. These were big milestones to get in our rearview mirror, but there's still work to be done, and we've got a good team with Kramer and the CDOT project team, along with our city and county partners, to keep this moving.
What I heard yesterday was that everyone really appreciated the partnership and taking input from all the entities, the cities really working on the trail connections into America's Beautiful Park and the Midland Trail, and I just wanted to pass on my appreciation for a good relationship and a good project. So thank you.
But we'll pass it on to the team, and it's reciprocated back to our stakeholders as well. One addition to this board, I remember about a year and a half ago, as we were trying to find an additional $20 million, we had to pull some things out of the project to get that added funding to come from the Transportation Commission. And we did pull out the landscaping from the basic configuration, but we have found a way with Carl Springs adding to their commitment, in addition to the pedestrian bridge that Commissioner Clark was referring to that will be going over Monument Creek, provided by the city. They're also kicking in another $1.5 million towards that landscaping. So this is going to be that gateway treatment into the west side and into downtown Carl Springs. It's going to be quite an entryway into the downtown area.
Thank you.
And Rob may want to add on the I-25 PEL effort. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks, Dave. In front of the board members, and we'll email this out as well to the board members not here. You have in front of you I got to get the right title, I-25 PEL Colorado Springs Denver South Connection. There's a technical working group. We have some folks from the region there, and certainly Craig Casper has moved around somewhere. I think he stepped out. He got this from CDOT, and we just thought we'd pass it along because I know it's a very important project for our region and the Denver region. Thought we'd keep everyone up to date of what they're talking about. So we'll continue to share information as we get it. And some of the board members, I think, are going to the executive committee that's coming up. There's another level beyond the technical committee. So if it's different information, we'll share that with the board as well.
Great.
I'm going to add, in regards to Woodland Park, I'm going to hand my card, make sure a councilman gets my card on future contacts. But we do coordinate periodically with Woodland Park, with having US 24 as well as State Highway 67 within the community of Woodland Park. Had met about a month ago with David Buttery and his staff in regards to some of the improvements coming up on Highway 24 and how to safely move traffic, but also address some of the pedestrian issues there along Highway 24. I will tell you, Mayor and Councilman, that State Highway 67 did also come up. That is a resurfacing project that we're in the midst of developing and coordinating with your public works staff in regards to some of the drainage improvements, and that may be some of the safety work that you're referring to, Councilman. But that's not within my group, but I'm adjacent to the individual whose group it does lie within, and I know they're coordinating with City of Woodland Park's staff, and we'll make sure we continue that.
Excuse me, Dave. Appreciate what you're saying. There's just an issue that we've had this conversation for the last 3 or 4 months. We haven't been able to get anything done. It's minor. We got a double turn lane or a single turn lane to Walmart where there's a lot of traffic, and one part of that lane needs to be striped so that people don't think it's a double turn lane, and we see almost accidents all the time there. This is about, I don't know, a 2-hour job. I don't know how long it takes. I know you guys are busy. And the other issue, if you want to take a minute offline to chat with Mr. Saunier, I know you're not the guy, if you will, But I've talked to Mark and to Karen about this on more than one occasion, and we just can't seem to get it done. So if you can help us, that would be great.
We will do that.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
I mentioned too, just
Yes.
thanks to CDOT for getting the entrance and exit into Manitou Springs completed over the Rainbow Falls Bridge. So
Oh, okay.
that's back open again. The park is still closed, just FYI, but we're going to be working on bridge work underneath, but the highway's open.
That's good news. Great, thanks. Anything else on CDOT? Okay, Stack.
Yeah, it's gone great. Norm Senior Stack Rep. We'll focus on the latter half of the Stack meeting held on 20th of October. That was a Stack workshop. Earlier this year, the legislature passed, the governor signed House Bill 16 and 18. That bill directed the staff to provide input not only to the CDOT staff, but also to the transportation commissioners directly. We had our first organizational kind of a concept meeting among transportation commissioners. 4 of them attended our staff meeting, and I think I can report that they were pleasantly surprised. Level of engagement, positive input, willingness to engage. So I was surprised at the level of synergy that could exist between the STAC, State Transportation Advisory Commission, and the Transportation Commission. However, the CDOT staff, I thought, was a little more subdued about it, because we're now opening up a conversation between us, the TPRs, and the MPOs, directly to the commission, and not bypassing, but including the oversight for the state, the governor-appointed commission. So CDOT was a little more subdued in the conversation. In fact, in the conversation, earlier in that same meeting, the CDOT budget director, Maria Sabato, had outlined the proposed CDOT budget. It's a $1.4 billion project of everything, and announced that the Transportation Commission would consider for approval the following month in draft. Well, we read back the legislation. This is, again, reading right from the text. The committee shall provide advice to both the department and the commission on the needs of the transportation systems in Colorado, including but limited to budgets. First item listed, that the staff provides input directly to the commission on budgets. Well, CDOT was already proposing to take a step without including staff input. So we're working on it. I think there was some total openness, and we just haven't got the mechanics down yet. So, yes. So, but what this does, I mean, this little heads up to the board here, is that this will open up some doors for us, but also transfer a burden to us for, now we have a responsibility. They will now look for our input, and that needs to be informed input. So I would encourage you, if you want to attend a staff meeting, they're generally the 4th Friday. In December, though, because of the Christmas holidays, the next staff meeting will be a combination of November and December. That will be a December 2nd, the first Friday, combining 2 months together. So if you'd like to join us, December 2nd, 9 a.m., the next meeting. I think this is a really good move. But we need to come with informed input, and the Transportation Commission is ready to engage. We expect to have our first full meeting from the staff and the commission in February. We'll actually receive input. So, good things ahead. I just want to let you know, tee up for useful conversations in the future. Questions on stack item? You've got the agenda we covered last month. Any questions, comments?
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
Good things happening.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, military installations report. And presentation from Peterson.
First, I'll say good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update from Peterson Air Force Base. Lead off with regrets from Colonel Chess. He does indeed wish he could be here. He is currently serving other duties in California as he visits our GSUs, geographically separated units, and performs his duties around the globe. Also say that appreciate the continued community support as we work through the PFAS and PFOA issues. We do indeed see this as our community. It is not the community, it is not your community, it is our community. We have upwards of 10,000 people that work on Peterson Air Force Base every day. I have 600 plus houses on the installation, which means that over 9,000 of our airmen, contractors, and government civilians live in our community. We take our responsibility to that community seriously, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect the citizens. That said, our objective is to respond quickly to any risks that are out there, and then take a look at what we can do to get the situation right. I'll talk briefly to not only the thought that we released PFAS and PFOA water into the sewer, but also talk to the more strategic effort to, again, get right the potential contamination of groundwater and drinking water. In light of that, under the umbrella of transparency, that's what our goal is. So with the discharge or the potential discharge, what we had happen is back in August, we determined that this firefighting system that we have on base was indeed contaminated with PFAS and PFOA. We immediately responded by saying we are no longer going to discharge water into the Colorado Springs utility sewer system as had been our procedures. Part of those procedures were to notify Colorado Springs Utilities, not because we had any indication that the water was contaminated, simply from the perspective that we were going to release a large volume of water into their system, and we did not want to overcome their system with that water. In August, again, we discover the PFAS, PFOA. We immediately say no more discharges. That heightened the awareness of our airmen with regards to what the water level was in that firefighting system. Come late September, one of our engineers goes out and recognizes that the water in the tank, so there's a tank and a pond, in the tank was lower than he expected. And he took note of it and was going to report that. Subsequently, we're preparing for a firefighter training event, and we drain that tank to fill the firefighting pond that exists underneath our firefighting structure. He turns that on, the pump to do that, and he steps away to take care of other duties. In the meantime, another engineer shows up, notices that the tank is empty, and again, with the heightened sense of awareness of what that system was doing and what the water contained, he raised the flag. The pump was cavitating because it had pulled all the water out, and the assumption that he made is that we had drained the whole system. That's where the 150,000 gallons came from. So in our interest, again, to protect the citizenry of our community, we announced that we had a potential loss of 150,000 gallons of water that had PFAS and PFOA in it. Early indications were that there was a potential for criminal activity involved in this, and I will tell you that no one wants to bring such an individual to justice more than me, that if someone had done this to our community, I wanted to know who it was and bring the full weight of the law against them. So we launch an independent criminal investigation using our Office of Special Investigations in conjunction with the state EPA to determine what, no kidding, occurred. What that does then is that we can't go in and do our own investigation to determine what happened to the water. We have to wait for the criminal investigation to complete. They've roped it off. They've secured it. We can't even get access to the facility. So that stymies our transparency. We are unable to tell you and the community what's going on. OSI is given the instructions to expedite as quickly as possible. They culminate their investigation in about 4 days and come back and say, no criminal intent, and in fact, we don't see enough evidence to suggest that the water went down the sewer. Given that, we're able to launch into our own investigation to determine what happened to 150,000 gallons of water. We launch into that investigation. We review several opportunities for that water to leave. One was the sewer. OSI and the state EPA said, nope, probably not that culprit. We look at the possibility for overflowing our firefighting pit. That is not an opportunity either, or a culprit either, as that the volume of the tank is far less than the volume of the pit. We cannot overflow that pit. We also look at the possibility that we have a leak. So we dye all the water green, and we pull water samples from under the pit and monitor very closely the level of the tank, and nothing moves. No green water from under the pit, and nothing moving in the tank. So we look at the final potential. Well, one more potential is that somebody intentionally came and pulled the water out. We look at all of the plumbing that is available to us to do that, and in fact, there's a beehive in one of the plumbing fixtures, indicating that it had not been used in quite some time. The last one then is the potential for evaporation. And what we do is in monitoring the level after we put in the green dye, we noticed that in our pit, which is an extremely large surface area, 17,600 square feet of surface area, that we were seeing a 1/4 inch drop in water every day. That is a lot. Far more. Thank you. There's the look at the pit. And all of that gravel then has the potential of being filled with water. So as we're monitoring that, we also start doing some calculations given what the weather was during the time period that we saw the drop. And we do continue to monitor, and between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of water is lost out of that pit every day. It's been a very dry fall, and so we run the numbers, and sure enough, the 2-foot drop in the tank equates to what we would expect to see in the evaporation loss over the course of the time that we were talking. So that's how we arrive at the fact that this was evaporation. So how are we moving forward with regards to that to make sure that while we had a pretty good scare, we don't have this problem in the future? We are actually plugging the drain that would get the water into the sewer. So there'll be no chance of an accident or an intentional discharge into the sewer system. We are also taking the plumbing works that would transport the water from the tank to that drain, and we are disabling that plumbing works. So again, no opportunity for an accidental release in the future, no opportunity for an intentional release in the future. We've also taken a look at our fire trucks. So all of this issue comes from our AFFF firefighting foam. We had fire trucks until just recently that had the old legacy AFFF on board. We have removed that legacy and replaced it with the safer AFFF foam on all of our fire trucks. That was completed last week. And the AFFF that was pulled off, the Air Force Civil Engineering Center is transporting that back to a central location for destruction. So that's kind of where we're moving forward with our firefighting and that potential release. Yes, sir. You have a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
When you're done.
Okay. So I'll move into kind of the more strategic view of the contaminants in the groundwater. Back in May, as you will recall, the EPA reduced their standards to 70 parts per trillion on that water. We started to become aware that we may have an issue. That drove us to testing the water in the pit that I mentioned. And it also had us take a look at some other things that, around the base, on the airport and the base proper, on what we might have in terms of the PFAS, PFOA. We moved up let me back up. Again, our intent, public safety first. We launched about $4.3 million of support into the areas that were affected in terms of their drinking water. About 90 locations are now getting bottled water. We have 25 homes that are slated to get under sink reverse osmosis systems that will pull out the PFAS, PFOA to give them safe drinking water. Those homes are the ones that are off of wells that we can't, through the utility companies, dilute their drinking water sufficiently to get below the standard. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at a couple of mobile homes as well as a farm to give a whole house system to remove the PFAS, PFOA. In the meantime, we've accelerated our drilling of test wells, again, in and around the installation. A total of 24 wells will be used. 7 were already available to us. They just need to be refurbed for use of the testing. We will drill the final 24th well on the 11th of November. We have been taking testing samples from the wells as we drill. So on or about the 11th, the final test sample will be taken. It will be transported to a contractor of the Army Corps of Engineers, so an independent study of those samples. We expect a report sometime the summer of 17, at which time, with the help of the State Health Department, we'll also work with EPA, we will come up with a plan on remediation and what that looks like. Don't know until that report comes out what we're going to have to do to get this right. But obviously you have our commitment as community partners that we will take the appropriate action to get that right. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you may have for me.
Trustee?
First of all, I'd just like to say something that has been on my mind maybe since the story broke. And that is, I've flown out of Colorado Springs a number of times. I like it. Small, it's easy. You go in, you get on the plane, you leave. You come back, you land. And you supply the firefighting capability for all the planes coming in and out. They're not just military.
We do.
And I appreciate that. I might be on a plane that crashes there. Might be my only chance for life.
Hopefully not.
Now,
Hopefully not.
I understand possibly not everybody in the audience shares my concerns. But no, I do appreciate it. Certainly, no one had any intent to foul water. No one knew before these chemicals were used that they would cause any problems. Had they known, they never would have been used. Okay? If the Air Force hadn't have provided this service, maybe it would have been the city or some other private entity that would have provided this firefighting service. So if it wasn't your organization that provided this service, the shoe would have been on somebody else's foot. That's my point. I appreciate how honest your organization has been. I appreciate the service that you provide. And to all of you, I won't get to see you again before Veterans Day, but thank you all for your service to our country. And I don't have any questions. You've been quite sufficient in your explanation for me.
Thank you.
So we certainly appreciate that, and we take our responsibility and our desire to serve this community seriously. And it is our honor to provide that service to the to the airport, and we look forward to continuing that into the foreseeable future. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Heisey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you giving the report today. I was not able to attend when you had the event out of Peterson, and thank you. Oh, no. Thank you, Commissioner Waller, for asking them to come in here, and as you notice, you've had the camera on you. This may end up on our YouTube channel. I don't know where it goes, but
It's on the YouTube,
but
yeah.
again, to trustees' point of view, the firefighting service was going to be provided by somebody. It happened to be you, so the Air Force ended up with the responsibility. And I really appreciate the way you've handled it. You stepped up early, and said, we recognize before it's proven that we could be the culprit. We're going to help one way or another. So I appreciate that. And also to the spill that became a non-spill, being in the public eye here, I through the years have recognized that the first headline is the one that gets read, so I appreciate the fact that you're taking all the steps necessary to help disseminate proper information the first time out. However, you get credit for saying, oops, we might have had a problem, very early on before you were able to complete your entire investigation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Waller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Colonel, thanks for the open and transparent briefing that you gave us today. Sounds to me like there won't be a need for another briefing until perhaps middle of 2017 when these results start coming in. Is there going to be other stuff that we need to stay up to date on, or is that kind of the next step in this process?
So in my mind, that is the next milestone that we see right now. But of course, again, as we continue to work the transparency, if anything comes up between now and then, we will make sure that that is available as soon as we know it. So I will say sometime in the summer of 17, we will certainly have some data. If we have anything before then, we'll make sure let you know.
Thanks.
Appreciate that, and I want to also echo my thanks. Also, as the chair of the utility board, I appreciate the clarification on what went through our sewer system.
Absolutely.
Or what didn't go through the. So, that was good to know, and I'm curious to know what the individual who found the beehive said as he went through that. But one thing does come to mind. A couple things come to mind. Water quality and air quality is part of PPACG's charter and responsibility. So I'd ask that we keep this as an item, as a watch item and reporting item as appropriate as updates come up. So this board needs to know that. It is part of our responsibility. Another question for the Air Force Academy. Do you have a fire truck up there? Do you have any of this issue up there? And then I'll have a follow-on question for our county reps.
We do not.
You do not?
There's a small training aspect that we had, but it has been used for several years. So as we know it today, Air Force is doing a broader study. The entire department Department of Defense is doing a broader study, and we will be part of that study. But as we know it today, we do not have a concern on the Air Force Academy.
Okay. And I know that the vast aviation assets at Schriever are probably not an issue. But a follow-on question for the county. What's at Meadow Lake? Yeah, It's not a county?
No, it is a private.
It's private.
But it is a good question. They must have firefighting capacity there, so.
Maybe we can have our water quality guys ask them a question here. Yeah, because I think it comes to mind as we need to double check all those kinds of things here.
Yep.
I know as the EPA is
Which brings us to Fort Carson as well. I look at their airfield every morning. I have a good shot at it as I leave the house. So
Well, I know that early on, we asked the Army, and they said, no, we don't use that stuff.
Oh, okay.
So they cleared themselves out real quick.
As far as what
to
Fort
clarify.
Carson, of course, this highlighted this issue for this whole area, and I think
Yeah.
even across the Department of Defense. But we did use those chemicals, but had stopped using those chemicals many years ago. It hasn't been banned, obviously, but we had some inkling that we could change over to a different chemical that didn't have the carbon, whatever it is, sulfonite. And so we had changed over those, but we are drilling some additional wells and doing some testing just like our Air Force team is doing, just to be sure. We do have an aquifer downstream of our fire training pit that doesn't feed any drinking water wells, and we don't think it migrates. We think it just sits there and percolates down, but we're going to validate those assumptions by these additional wells that we're drilling. So we'll be reporting back those results as we get those. We're just completing drilling some of the additional wells this week as well.
That's great.
I'm curious why it takes
6 days.
So I'm not tracking all of the details on what the tests involves. That was the timeline that was given to us by the contractor on how long it would take them to get that squared away. Yeah, they are certainly aware of our interest to accelerate to the extent possible. They have given us a date of the summer of 17. If they can accelerate it, they will, and as soon as that report comes out, we'll let everybody know. Yep. I'll also share that in the interest of making sure this stays on the front burner and we continue to keep you updated, I'll make sure that it's part of my agenda that this meeting, we will at least touch on it, and it may be nothing significant to report, but we will at least touch on it until that report comes out to make sure that we have all of it covered.
Okay, great. I appreciate that follow-on. Because
Absolutely.
That's something of high interest to us.
The other thing I'll mention is, in the interest of transparency, anytime something comes up that doesn't quite look right, please feel free to call Colonel Schess or I directly. We want to make sure that we have clear comm both directions. Call us. We are available at any time to have a conversation with anyone about how things are going on the base. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate that. And looking back at my own history, when I went through Navy flight deck firefighting, I probably took a bath in some of that stuff. But I shudder to think of what.
Yeah, therein lies
Explains
the
a lot.
problem. Yeah, exactly.
Nice shot. Moving on to the other bases, anything to add?
No, nothing significant to report from Fort Carson. I didn't report last month. Although we do have a lot of our senior leaders that are participating in different events throughout the communities for Veterans Day. And the leadership at Fort Carson wanted me to just thank this board and community partners in general. There's a lot of great benefits that both active duty soldiers and their families, veterans, even reservists, National Guardists will enjoy on Friday, because many businesses open themselves out, and if you can show some identification of being in one of those categories, you get discounts or whatever, and that's muchly appreciated how the community embraces during Veterans Day as they get out and gets a chance to be off and enjoy being in the community. So thank you.
Great, thanks.
Nothing significant from the Air Force Academy. I just want to echo Fort Carson's thanks to the community for what you do for our airmen and everybody that's out at the Air Force Academy for all the kind of goodies that come out for Veterans Day and taking care of us, so we really do appreciate that. One big note is, if you didn't notice, the Air Force Academy won the Commander-in-Chief Trophy for the 20th time last Saturday. So thanks to my Army and Navy brethren for
Thanks for playing.
I used to say that as a Cubs fan.
Yes, and I'm a Cubs fan from Chicago originally. And then, if you haven't noticed, we have our biggest interstate rivalry happening this weekend out at the football stadium. So CSU comes to town, comes down, 8:15 kickoff. So that's you can thank ESPN for that kickoff time. So it's going to be a little bit chilly out there, but we should have a good time. And that's more Mountain Division, Mountain West competition for us. And then Really, that's all I have pending anyone's questions.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
We at Schriever participated in the Veterans Day Parade on Saturday the 5th, and this year's theme was Women in the Military, and so Colonel Deanna Burt, our wing commander, led the formation there. And anybody who had a chance to come out, our entire formation was women this year, so got a great reception from the community, lots of, cheers and excited kids out there. So we appreciate everybody's support on all that. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Executive Director's report, and now you get to introduce your new staff.
Yes, if they're still here. Yes.
They're still here?
I got to look around the column. Really pleased to introduce 3 new staff folks that really going to do good work here. First, Jessica McMullen behind the column comes our way as Policy and Communications Manager. She's has experience through the county and the chamber when it was the chamber before the Regional Business Alliance. So I announced her last month, but she's in the room this time. So welcome to Jessica. You'll be getting emails and hearing from her a lot. Let me switch over here to our Area Agency on Aging. Gretchen Bricker is there, standing up next to Joe. She comes from the local industry. I used to remember PACE when it was PACE, but Rocky Mountain Options is the new name. Rocky Mountain PACE. So they put the name together. So she's going to be our Area Agency on Aging team lead for services. Really looking forward to things she's going to do once we turn off the fire hose. But she's going to be throughout the program, and you'll probably be hearing from her sooner than later. And then there's Jenny Lines. She is going to be, for us, the publications and website coordinator. She comes from the university setting in part of her past, something about 45,000 web pages in a university setting. So our website's not so big, but in her first couple of weeks, she cracked one of those things we couldn't crack and for most of the year. Sometimes our website loads up in like a 2-hour delay. She got it figured out, so it's now almost instantaneous. So when we upload things to our website, it goes right away. So she's already solved one thing that's been lingering for a while, so glad that got done. So welcome her to the process, and you'll see her fingerprints all over publications coming in the near future. The rest I'll let stand unless there's any questions.
Great. I was about to say, here, I wrote down a note here, our transportation, Rocky, come on up and join at the table. You're welcome at the table. Blame on, reduces the threat factor, right? Yeah. Okay, stepping through, we have reports from the TAC, CAC, RAC, MCC.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. Jennifer Irvin, Chair TAC of the TAC. Just be brief, because I already came up here twice today to mention some of the recommendations that the TAC made. So just moving on to item number 8, we discussed the existing TIP policy in regards to the NOPE. That's the not one penny extra policy, and that's something that we've discussed several times, and it will be back on our agenda this month as an action item to bring a recommendation to you. What was on our schedule last month and also yours last month was a discussion item on the long-range transportation plan schedule, and we had that on our agenda for approval this month. We actually had some questions in regards to the new travel demand model that the PPACG staff is moving forward with, and so we asked for a demonstration and some additional information on that. So that is, again, on our agenda this next month, and we tabled that and expect that to bring forward to you this next month. We did discuss the travel demand update, and I would thank PPACG staff because they brought to us this item and discussed the tour-based model versus what they have today, which is the traditional travel demand model. And I think this will be important as we coordinate our the models between PPACG and DRCOG, especially as we look forward to the I-25 North and that project, because that will be important to lay some of that groundwork. And then we have several items for next month's TAC meeting, which is coming up on the 17th. And I would just like to mention, I specifically spoke with Craig this yesterday. We had discussed several times a resolution, a recommended resolution to bring to the board in regards to the importance of I-25 to the region, I-25 North, specifically identifying that as our highest priority project. So I asked Craig to add that to our agenda this month so that we can hopefully bring something forth as a recommendation to this board. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jen Nellinger from the Community Advisory Committee. I'm going to make this brief. We had a lot of the same discussions regarding the TIP policy 1 and 2. I think it was an explanation that we really appreciated after spending some time with the staff, that the small projects were indeed short-range projects, not ones that would span 2 years, that they were meant to be completed. So there was some confusion there. But we went ahead and passed those, and it was unanimous. We will have a few member transitions in our group, so you'll see those in the coming months. We're going to take our time on appointing the new community at large representative because we need the opportunity to review interested candidates. So we're still posting for those. With the addition of Jessica on the staff, it helps us get that job done. So thank you. And one of the things we really appreciated is we'll be working with the TAC and seeing the presentation of Urban Sim. We're excited about the new tools that are going to be available for the transportation teams to be able to decide on long-range planning based on technology and what's available out there. And it seemed like an updated review of the opportunities to see data in a more enlightened manner. So we thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay.
Good morning. Joanne Ruth from the Regional Advisory Council. I'm pleased to be here again this morning to talk with you. A very brief report. Our provider presentations were particularly valuable in that we learned more about details of the actual services in Teller County. And I'd like to highlight the third one, and that is from our hearing aid program at Peak Vista. And it's a public service announcement. If you or your families have any hearing aids that are lost in a drawer, no longer used, would you please bring them in and let us recycle them, because they can be used for those who cannot afford hearing aids. How many of you know about the cost of hearing aids these days? Would you like to smile or frown? Frown. Okay. We can, all of us, do something to help our friends and neighbors. And is it important to be able to hear? Turn off your hearing aid, everybody, and just watch me talk. You didn't hear me? I'm so sorry. The next piece of our really important information, you can take them up to Peak Vista, but you could also bring them here and we will get them to Peak Vista. The hearing aid clinic up to the UCCS. But now, you can call Peak Vista, and they may also have collection boxes. I just can't tell you that for sure, but they will know about the program. So give the gift of hearing, okay? The next item on our agenda was the carryover funds that we will be gathering our TRS committee together. If there's any questions in the room, we are prepared to answer them. If not, I thank you. Yes?
Just one time, I was going to thank you for having a very long day, that your item 8 adjournment, so it was 11:55 p.m. adjournment. I would guess it's probably 11 a.m.
It was not a sleepover.
No.
You are smart. Thank you.
I didn't hear that.
That must have been it.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. We appreciate your attention and your time and your support.
Thank you. And is Gail Nell still here? She was there a minute ago. She left, okay. Okay, so. And ground level ozone monitoring report. We're still in attainment, right?
We are. To make this brief, yes, we are still in attainment, and the summary report that I've put before you, the first graph tells the main story, and those points are basically, they represent 3-year moving averages. If you want more details, call me, I'll give them to you. I'd rather not put you to sleep right now. But the upshot is, if you look at the top dashed line, that those were the EPA standards, if you were, at the respective times, and you can see it's ramped down twice from 1997 to present. We're fortunate that our 3-year moving average has been dropping since 2014, kind of just keeping us below that standard, which is nice. However, not to make things too simple or too rosy, if you look at the next graph on the next page, you see the past couple years the numbers have been going up. Those are not moving averages. Those are essentially, in simple terms, the high values that we're using for those respective years. So you scratch your head, and how can that be? Well, the reason the moving average is going down the past 3 years is because we're working our way off of those high years, 2010 to 2013, and so that's been helping us the past few years. However, what is likely is, since the high values that we're using for the past couple of years have gone up, the moving average may very well, unless next year's numbers are abnormally low, start to creep up, and we may start to bump up against. We may stay below, we may exceed the new EPA standard. Time will tell. And there's really no good way to predict that. Generally, if it's hot and dry, we have prevailing inversions where we have a cap on air dispersal, rising and dispersion. That tends to favor increases in pollutants, especially ground level ozone. The upshot is that should we bump up against or exceed the 3-year moving average, going back to that first graph, at some point in the future, we'll then need to put it under a microscope. The state will require that we study it in more detail, and if it continues to exceed it, we would have to basically develop a plan, so to speak. So any potential action for ground level ozone is sometime into the future, if at all. Time will tell, but that's kind of the course of things, and we'll just have to see what nature brings us. So,
Trustee Smith?
This is a bit off the beaten path, but sort of down the same line. The VW settlement. We talked about the potential of losing our share if we were still attaining our clean air standards, that maybe our share should go to somebody that's not making the grade. I don't know how serious they were about that, and where are we now, and would you like to address any of that? Thank you.
I just mentioned, we talked about the shares. It's really not an allocated amount, $61 million statewide for the whole, for air quality mitigation, but it's a top end. And that would be the maximum amount for qualifying projects to further mitigate not ozone, but nitrous oxide, nitrogen oxide, NOx.
Yes.
Not N2O.
It's all NOx. NOx is all of that.
Got it. So, we did a conference call the other day from CDPHE, and we're open for comments. CDPHE is open for comments right now. I don't know. People are coming, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good question and a legitimate concern. The state can weight that factor in the deciding how to award and allocate funds. So the fact that we're in attainment, what's the saying? No good deed shall go unpunished. So I don't mean that literally. It's a little humor.
We do, but.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't come too much into play, but yes, the state could say, well, we have dirtier air, we're going to weight more of it where it's needed, but certainly the argument can be made, and they're receiving comments now, that, well, if we have good air, we want to keep it that way. So, good point.
I'm going to encourage you, if you are not familiar with the issue, take a look at the website. There's a whole list of qualifying programs. Colorado.gov/CDPHE/VW would list, and for about $3.5 million for El Paso, $365,000 for Teller County.
Yes.
It would pay for anything that would mitigate, reduce, especially the diesel emissions. The 2-liter engine Volkswagen was the culprit. And, so if you're considering purchasing a vehicle, if you want to add additional CNG stations and maybe electric vehicle charging stations, anything that's going to reduce it, but you have to, here's the kicker, you have to destroy the vehicle. You have to put a bullet hole in the engine so it can never be used by anybody else either. So there are some real qualifying, not bullet hole, weld a hole or something. But anyway.
Kill it.
Yes.
Kill it. Weld the crankshaft.
Does the purchase of the 50 cal qualify as
rounds. But take a look. If you're considering buying vehicles, take a look at that website, CDPHE/VW.
Now we know you're from El Paso County.
There you go.
If I might, Mr. Chair. So what it says in terms of implications of non-attainment, some of the things that they list here are more ozone monitoring locations, vehicle emission testing, more stringent emission limits on proposed industrial sources and other measures. Are those going to be implemented by the state and then pushed down to us, and who funds that?
I think. Go ahead.
If it came to that, that's way down the road, that's years down the road. I wanted to put that in the memo, those are my words, because that's what other non-attainment regions deal with. But if we just begin to hit or exceed the ozone standard for a year or two, it's going to be a long process before those things would come into play. We would have to do an inventory, probably more monitoring stations, so we could make certain, kind of like a second medical opinion, that we're truly getting a representative picture, and then look at that before the state would require such things. But yes, that could, I'm not saying would, could ultimately be driven by CDPHE down toward us. And who would pay for that? Who always pays for these kinds of things?
Generally local government.
Yes.
So how do we stack up in this state? Because the little chart shows, where we are, but how do we stack up, unless I'm missing it, how do we stack up when it comes to the rest of the state in terms of ozone?
Other regions of the state have slightly better air quality. We're pretty good. I mean, rural areas on the western slope are doing a bit better than us. But
why, though? Why is that?
Well, we have more automobiles, for one.
More than the Denver area?
No.
More
than the rural areas.
Denver is not an attainment.
Yeah, Denver's
not
an attainment. Yes, so to compare us to Denver, Denver would love to have our air quality.
Okay. Well, and I think we do need to keep kind of just an eye on all of this, but brought up electric vehicles. I think we all need to keep in mind, too, those electric vehicles still will use our roads. And I know that's it's a major controversy on how to make them pay for that, but they're still going to be able to, regardless of whether we're all electric or not, somebody's going to have to pay for the roads. And if there's no gas tax to pay for it, then we're going to be in trouble trying to figure out how to maintain them. So.
We're going to talk about the proposed road usage charge being considered by the state of Colorado as a pilot project.
And I know it's not popular, but there is a point where we're going to have to realize that those electric vehicles are still putting wear and tear out there. So.
They also point out that electric vehicles are actually powered by coal, but
And whether we have,
That's a
and
whole
whether
other
we have
discussion.
another, enough outlets and electricity to actually charge them, right? Yeah.
Do that too. And I can tell you that CSU Utilities is looking at potential projects that would fit under this, things like charging stations and natural gas refueling stations. So we're taking a look at that. Yes, Mr. Murray.
Okay, the question I have is that, okay, the pool of money was given to the state based on the number of VW vehicles in the whole state.
About $5,600 per vehicle.
Per vehicle.
In the offending category.
Now, within the state pool, they didn't pool it for El Paso County specifically.
Oh, yes.
A very
Yes, they did.
precise amount.
Yes.
Yes, they
However,
did.
we can't spend that precise amount unless we have qualified programs to spend that amount. However, that doesn't mean that that money can be spent anywhere else.
Oh, it absolutely means the money can be spent.
PPACG owns
Yeah.
the checkbook on this one.
Okay, so the pool isn't dedicated to El Paso.
Correct.
No.
Thank
We
you.
don't
And-
spend
and-
it, we don't, that's one of the questions, is where
And-
we don't spend it. We're spending
Okay, so
And-
the time frame is what?
Well, they're having that discussion now.
So the application process is up through summer of 2017. This is a reimbursable project, so if you buy something in 2017, we expect the fund to come available down through the feds late December, in December of 2017 projected, so.
It's a probably, and on or about December of 2017, money's free.
That's projected timeline from feds.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Jennifer, you have something to add to this?
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. I understand that the public comments are open through November 21st on how the state is deciding how to allocate this money. And I think that that's a good point, is that, while El Paso County doesn't have, the highest emissions rate or NOx rate, we actually had the highest amount of vehicles registered in our area. So if they decide to allocate it based upon what they're showing right now in their proposal, then some of those funds that, in my opinion, could be coming to this area might go to other areas, just because they're able to show or have programs that may be able to reduce that more. So I think it's important that maybe we comment on that process, because I'd like to see as many of those funds come to this region as possible.
What I'd argue as part of this particular engagement process is the fact that these vehicles don't go away, is what the problem is. So that it builds up over time from each one of these vehicles. And so therefore, by taking the money away from us,
The 2-liter engine, the defending vehicle?
the offending vehicles,
No, it's $4 billion mitigation, but it's a $10 billion buyback. They do go away.
They go away.
They will buy them back and destroy them, or repower
Retro.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so do we keep account of how many vehicles will still reside in El Paso that are in violation, or how does that work?
Well,
Good question.
it's total to the vehicle registration system, to the
Yeah.
clerk.
Yeah.
So talk to the county clerk as to how many vehicles of that type are in the county. They can give you 5 numbers.
And I think the
I'm
buyback,
arguing to keep as much, the damage has already been done by and large. It wasn't recorded, and so I think as much as we can capture.
Hence the mitigation.
that's mitigation, yeah. Okay, and we having thoroughly derailed the ground level ozone discussion.
So related.
Volunteering to go
You want to throw them back? Yeah.
tow them back?
Murray's Towing Company?
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, last couple of information items. Proposed schedule and methodology for 2015 moving forward, RTP.
We can roll that to next.
You can roll that to next month?
Let's roll it to next month. It's a 3-year process.
That sounds good. Board member appointments to the statewide Transportation Advisory Committee. I think we were deferring that till the new year.
It's just a reminder, start thinking on your campaign speeches to.
The campaign speeches to,
Yeah, we don't have any for, a while. So this is for the statewide Transportation Committee membership.
right.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that as I roll off the Board of County Commissioners in January, I'd be interested in serving as an alternate, so. You
Would that be
choose to
kind of like
elect me.
a citizens advisory member? Sounds reasonable. Okay. No, you don't. Member entity announcements. Do we have anything? Going, yes.
I just wanted to mention on December 15th, we will have the State of the Region address. It will be held at the Antlers Hotel, and it's sponsored by the Colorado Springs Regional Business Alliance. It's a luncheon. We'll send out more information as we get closer to the date, but certainly we would love all of you to attend. We'll be talking about things from a regional perspective, where we've been, where we are, and where we are hopefully going in the future. So just wanted to pass that on. And again, that's December 15th at a luncheon, so like 11:30 a.m.
I haven't seen anything yet, so looking forward to that. Yeah.
In Telecom, we have a Veterans Appreciation Dinner, or not dinner, program at the Woodland Park High School, 9:30 a.m. This is Woodland Park High School. They have choirs and kids telling stories of their grandparents. Very, very moving. If you can make it up to Woodland Park, 9:30 Friday, this day after tomorrow, Veterans Day, would love to have you. I'll be keynoting, speaking as a veteran myself, so if you can make it.
American Legion in Fountain on Southmore, 2 p.m., little Veterans Day program, and free lunch. So, free food.
There is a free lunch.
There is a free lunch.
There is a free lunch.
And if you really are hungry, you can go down to VFW right down the road at 2 p.m. and have lunch again.
Or you can follow us in Woodland Park at 5 p.m.
I know, but we have a 9
For a
o'clock
free
one
lunch.
at the poll, too, so, but no food.
My calendar is filling up there. Oh, yeah.
I want to
Okay.
mention that the Manitou Incline is going to be opening up again soon. Don't have an exact date. They're ahead of schedule. Just want to let our military installations to remind their service members that the opening is 6 a.m. and there'll most likely be an officer at the bottom, so it wouldn't behoove them to get there any earlier.
Yeah, there are no 4 a.m., paratroopers running up the... Trustee Smith?
Yes. There'll be a Pell 24 meeting on December 6th at 6 p.m. in Calhan. This will be a combined meeting for Rama and Calhan. It'll be held at the Calhan office, and if turnout is too large to be accommodated there, it'll be next door in the VFW hall. So if anyone has any interest in going to that meeting, we welcome you to come out. Maybe you'd like to come out, Mark, and meet everybody out there on that date.
What's PAL 24?
That's the
Environmental linkage.
yeah, planning and environmental linkage, and that covers Highway 24 from Powers out to Rama. So, and that study goes out to 2040. Thank you.
Just share, again, thanks to the community. We couldn't do what we do as a military without you. And you guys here in the Colorado Springs region, the Front Range, not only make it happen, but make it a pleasure. So I appreciate the continued community support. Thanks.
Good. Any other? You have a meeting schedule. I think everybody has that. Any last comments? Going on. We shall adjourn. See you in a couple of minutes. Oh, yeah.
I think we're, I think so.
All right, now, second thing. What have I done? I'm sorry. And why did I do it? What's your... Having said that, let's do it.
Legislature is helpful,
I would think